see the vodka car champions.
Hello and welcome to episode 50 of Celtic Rumours TV, the Balls and Bovril podcast with your host Mark and myself Paul. Join us on the show tonight. We have Terence. Terence is Ter161, former forum page celticrumours.co.uk, where Celtic the supporters discuss everything about Celtic. On today's show we'll talk about today's breaking news that Dominic McKay has stepped down as Celtic CEO due to personal reasons. We'll have a look at the latest news around Celtic. We'll have a look at the Celtic players on international duty and how their country's results went on during the international break. We take a look at the injuries picked up during the international break, mostly Kyogo Furuhashi. We look ahead to Saturday's game against Wasp County at Celtic Park. Firstly, Mark will do a few shout-outs.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. Just before we get shout-outs, I see that Bobby, he's in the live chat saying he's feeling a lot better. That's good to hear, Bobby, mate. But Mikey as well, Mikey's doing a bit better today, Paul.
Very good.
Still not get any taste or sense or smell. And he said he would walk up the stairs and that in the market, but he's feeling a lot better than he was, and he's back to work on Tuesday, I think it is, he said, so that's at least a bit of good news. No shout-outs to Richie, Tim Aloy, Malika and Ben. That's our 50th podcast, Paul.
It's amazing, isn't it? Fluid, isn't it?
Considering, do you know what I mean, how we started it? There's somebody saying the sound quality's atrocious. Wesley saying the sound's not right. If I can make it that. I who'd have thought, Paul, would have 50 episodes already, eh?
Yeah, fluid, isn't it?
Aye.
Jesus, the flu.
I mean, I can mind we'd a wee thing when we'd done our 21 episodes. I thought that was quite a thing, but I mean, that's us up at 50. We've got 495 subs. Our watchers in that, the watchers in that are a lot better. We're pushing them. We're nearly at the 4,000 that you need to go in the YouTube partnership, and it's about, I think we've had about 3,000 odd hours it is watched, Paul.
Jeez, that's amazing, isn't it? It seems to be progressing well, Mark. It seems to be getting more and more views as well, don't it? It seems to be
slowly getting there. No, I mean, we do obviously going to. I mean, there's that much competition out there. We're never going to be. We're not, no, I mean, like that Axom, you just call them Axom at a Celtic state of mind in that. But I mean, they're good at what they're doing. We're just a group of Celtic fans just sitting here playing their kind of idea, and we'll see where it goes. Know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, moving on. 36 years ago today, the 10th of December 1985, Celtic supporters and Celtic Football Club lost one of their greatest men to ever walk through the doors in Celtic FC. Celtic legend and manager Jock Stein sadly passed away on the 10th of September 1985. Real Batiste have informed Celtic FC that they can't allow Celtic supporters to travel to Spain for next week's Europa League group stage, as the Spanish government have put in restrictions to travelling supporters into Spain. Gordon Strachan has been cleared by the Scottish FA to take up his consultant role at Celtic. Celtic Foundation is delighted to confirm that the Celtic sleepout out Glasgow will return to Celtic Park on Saturday, November 13, 2021, and will once again attend the element of our annual Christmas appeal. That's it from the news around Celtic today. Of course, the breaking news today is that Dominic McKay has stepped down as CEO of Celtic, and is it Michael Nicholson, Mark, I think is it, that will take over as a temporary. We will discuss that more detailed when Terence will be joining us on the show. Mark, don't take Terence on.
I'll go and get him on the now. That was a shocker with McKay, wasn't it? Really came out of the blue.
Yeah. With Dom, when did he hold it fell apart, it was just out of the blue, wasn't it?
I said on the forum as well, Paul, obviously there's speculation about it, but I mean, we needed to give these people, we need to give the stock exchange 6 months notice for Peter Lowell leaving. It's obviously something, all this carry on about it fell out with, I'm not buying that at all. I said to you earlier on, as soon as I heard it, what I thought it was, Paul, whether we're going to say about that, we'll see as it goes. Terence, are you there, bud?
I am indeed. Good evening, gents. How are you?
Evening, Terence. Thanks very much for coming on again, bud.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Terence, I suppose today is the main thing today is that Dominic McKay stepped down as CEO, and where does that leave the club now, do you think, and how does the club go about things now?
I don't know. I was shocked when I saw it. I think it was when I noticed, I saw it on the forum. Kev83 put it up, and I just checked, and it said then that he was gone, or going, I should say. And I was like, oh my God, something. You'd think something serious has obviously happened. I mean, obviously you can't speculate, but I don't know. It's a strange one for a guy that came in and seemed to be delivering so much in regards to kind of giving back to the fans and opening forums to the fans, and everything that we were looking for last year, he seemed to be delivering this year. And saying that Ange was his man as well, was his, now all of a sudden he seems to be going out the door, which is I don't know, it's a big worry.
Mark?
Oh, well, just, I know there's a bit of worry because, I mean, we spoke before as well, Paul, he will have been making plans for, we said Ange was waiting till the window was shut before he looked at other stuff, but we also said that if McKay and that wouldn't be doing their job if they weren't starting to build towards what they were wanting to change and things like that. So whether, I don't know if they're going to just continue doing that line now or wait till they get a new CEO in. But I just said it's personal problems, I mean, I don't all that stuff about thoughts, I don't believe any of that for a minute. The way it's just happened. Do you get what I mean? I mean, even folk are saying, it's because Gordon Strachan. Maybe it's because Gordon Strachan's coming in. Gordon Strachan's coming in to work for 3 months. He knew a month ago that Gordon Strachan was coming in. I think it is really something in his personal life that's forced him to make this decision.
And I suppose the main thing, Mark, is that him and his family, whatever's going on, are doing well, and they're safe for whatever's going on. But
Paul, it's a big difference as well, Paul. If he's living in Edinburgh and then he's moving from Edinburgh to Glasgow, I mean, if obviously he was in charge of the Scottish rugby side of it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't imagine for a second it's even remotely as intense as being the CEO of Celtic and everything that comes with it. Now, whether his situations, and I hope it wouldn't be that his family weren't comfortable in Glasgow or any of those surroundings. I hope it's nothing like that. I hope it's just something that maybe it's a simple case that they just couldn't settle and it's just not for him. You'd hope it's something like that, but you wouldn't like it to think that it would be anything more serious than that,
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah, that's mainly it, Mark. Like you don't want it to be something serious, like, so you don't.
See, honestly, but see, commuting between Edinburgh and Glasgow, it's nothing. There's really nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't drive, but I'm sure a couple of guys in the live chat will be able to tell you. But my rating, it's maybe a half-hour drive.
Oh, fair enough.
It's not. I mean, see, his family could still stay through in Edinburgh, and as it's just along the motorway, really, Terence. It's not really that big a drive to even just do it in the morning. People do it every morning.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, that's fair enough. Maybe it's a case, so Mark, that he didn't realise the level of intensity and everything that came with being CEO of Celtic. As I said, because being involved in the Scottish rugby, it would be big. It wouldn't be a fraction of what he's going to be under pressure wise been with Celtic, like, you know. That unless that's the situation, I don't know. But look,
Just well, even at that, you'd think he would know what kind of pressure he was going to. Do you get what I mean? Living in Scotland, and what was we found out he was actually a Celtic supporter. Do you know what I mean? He would know himself what kind of pressure he was bringing on himself.
well, you would imagine 100%, Mark, he would. But yeah, something obviously for whatever reasons it hasn't worked out, and it's a shame because he came across as a really kind of, you know, a really out front kind of guy, you know.
I was really impressed with him. I think it's got. I mean, although he was only there a few months, and we said at the time he's saying all the right things and answering the questions the way we want to hear them and that, but that's kind of his job, a wee bit of PR. But we kind of believed him, didn't we?
But he was found
Stuff, and he came out with stuff, and you just knew right away Peter Law was talking a lot of rubbish. Whereas we put our trust in McKay because he came out and he seemed to be a bit more open. He was quite relaxed, sitting even in the fan media events and that. And I think it could be a big loss because I think he did have a good vision or plans for Celtic to get the club back up to where it should be.
That's the concern, no, Mark. Is that you said it there that he had a vision. No, I know it's only been acting role that this fella Mike Nixon is coming in, but he was. No, only the fact is that he was Peter Law's right-hand man. Peter Law brought to the club. But that's where the issue is, that if he gets the job full-time, and we're not saying he is or he didn't, but change won't come the way we wanted or we believed that was going to come under Ange, because it's going to be mainly the same old story with the same board members there. I think that's more what Celtic supporters are kind of more worried about now on social media.
But it's Dermot Desmond that's making his decisions, Paul. And he made the decision to bring in McKay, and he made the decision to get Lowell out of the CEO job and put McKay in. So he's not.
Do you see a new CEO outside Celtic coming in, Sword?
I think there'll be an outsider brought in again, Paul. I really do. Again, but then again, I mean, we've said it. We think it was McKay that brought Ange in. We saw the kind of close relationship they seem to have and how they kind of seem to go on. So that's another concern if a new CEO is going to come in, and how's him and Ange going to go on. I think that's maybe more a worry than like how's the new CEO and Peter Lowell going to go on.
That's it, like, isn't it? You know, how's Ange going to react to this, because he said himself he bought into Dominic McKay's plan for the club. You know, he saw the vision Dominic McKay wanted to do. Terence, you know, how if said to go back to this shoestring that we were under 12 years, that we start going back to the way we were, the person that Ange is in, he's going to walk, isn't he?
Yeah, but I would imagine though, Paul, like, not that I've ever been in a high power position like that, but CEO positions and that, like that, they're planning 6 months ahead, like. So the blueprint, whether Don McKay is there or not, should still be in place. Now, whether they adjust it is another issue. But these guys, you'd imagine they have a 6 month plan at least ahead to go, okay, this is where we want to be in 6 months. This is through the whole structure of the club. So I imagine that it's not like it took them so long to get someone in. I can't imagine they're going to rush someone in straight away. And that obviously this guy, this Michael Nichols, I suppose in a sense it's nearly like an assistant manager when the manager goes. He's one of the fellas on the board, and it's an easy fella just to slip in for the time being until they get maybe the right guy in again. But I'd surely imagine that Dominic McKay and Ange and the other powers who are involved in it have sat down and they've got a blueprint for this next 6 months. So there shouldn't really be a drastic change. I would hope not anyway.
And one of the things is that the transfer window is shut. So any work, no matter who the CEO is, but any work he'd done it's not going to have any effect on the team.
Yeah.
But we're quite happy with Ange and the squad and that, you know. So again, we're back to talking about stuff going on behind the scenes. We thought we'd give this a bye for a while now, didn't we? But that's a good thing as well. So really, we've got to January kind of thing to get it sorted out. I think it'll be sorted out long before that, but we've got to the end before we actually need, like, well, get into a transfer window with Nicholson in charge of your negotiations and that's it. But do you know what I mean? He's never done that before.
Yeah, the thing too, Mark, like the best thing about Bobo's appointing Dominic McKay was that he was from outside Celtic. He wasn't from the original board, and he came in with open eyes and he saw where the club needed to improve. You know, from board level, like not first team level. I mean, from board level, he saw like that the departments needed restructuring. You know, and I think Celtic need to appoint outside again to have those open eyes again to bring Celtic to the next step as well. Because if we're going to have the same old, we're not going to move on, are we?
But
You know.
it's quite a specialist job, Paul.
Yeah.
I mean,
This fella's qualified. Like I was looking into Nicholson, and he's really part of the legal process in Celtic. You know, that's like he's in charge of the kind of that department, the legal side of the club, because he was a lawyer before he came to Celtic, and he started looking after all Celtic's legal like maybe finalise contracts, Mark, sending them to relevant solicitors and stuff like that. That's what he kind of looked after, you know, because
fair dues, he's brainier than anyone he is.
yeah,
I'm not meaning that to disrespect.
Highly insulted.
He's basically a pen pusher kind of guy that'll make sure all the paperwork's done, and do you know what I mean? Crossing the T's, dotting the I's, making sure all the bills. I mean, well, that's part of the CEO's job, making sure the day-to-day running, that all the bills are paid and things like that. So he'll probably be able to do that. But as long term, I don't think there's anybody at Celtic who could just step in to be a CEO.
not no, Mark, considering like you're looking at the average age of the likes of Ian Banker and Nicholson and all like that. Nicholson's in his 60s. I was looking up same with Banker. He's pushing on a bit, like, you know, that they mightn't be able to, like, health wise maybe be physically able to take on that job as well, you know.
No,
I don't think it. Sorry, Mark. Go on.
on you go, Terence.
I was just saying, Paul. I don't think a guy like that, Michael Nicholson, if he's been at the club since 2013 and everything like that, I think the last thing a guy like him would want it to be is in the forefront in being the CEO of the company. Like his title, I think they said the title is he's director of legal and football affairs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's more as I think Mark might have been saying there. He's more to do with maybe the signing off in the contracts and doing all that. He's more in the background. I'd say it's literally a case of, look, just take it for the next few months or whatever it is. We'll have a guy in there as a specialist guy in there who knows obviously the role, or CEO role,
I mean,
and go from there.
is that a full-time job, like Nicholson's job?
Yeah.
That is, yeah, full time. Yeah, he's
fully
he's the-
employed
yeah.
by Celtic. Yeah.
Oh, I thought
Since
maybe
he's there.
he'd be kind of lawyer practice or something like that, you know.
No, he left the lawyer's practice. Yeah, and he joined in 2013 from some
He's been at the
lawyer.
club for 8. Yeah, he's been at the club for 8 years. I think Terence is it.
Since 2013, and he's in that role of the legal and football affairs since 2019. The guy is highly like intelligent, and obviously he's got two degrees from Stratford, one from Stratford University, one from somewhere else, and he's a master's from Harvard Business University. So
that's the one I went to.
Oh, is it? I was wondering. He said he knew you all right. He said he bumped into you over there, like.
Can you not tell with the twang? That's where I learned the twang out at Harvard.
Yeah, you have it all right. You have it down to a T, to be fair to you.
And I suppose too, Mark, like, if we were going to be appointing within the club when Peter Law stepped down, that maybe he would be next in line. But the fact is that they looked from the outside to bring someone in the inside shows that there's no one inside the club to take on that role.
I don't think there is, Paul. Even Nicholson, he'll do for a stopgap, keeping juggling the plates, basically, kind of thing, just keep everything ticking over to find a new CEO. But I mean, if a transfer window was still open, this guy would be, for me, miles out his depth.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mark is like an assistant manager, to be honest. Like when the manager gets sacked, look, will you just step in there for a few months to get someone in to fill the role? I really think
that's freaking John Kennedy. Just
got a hard on for John Kennedy, I swear to God.
Yeah.
I think you're his love child or something.
But Mark, do you think that will that have any effect on the first team or for tomorrow's game in preparations, or would it be the same as with Ange, you think?
I don't think. Well, I think probably privately, Ange will be disappointed in what's happened, but I don't think it'll affect the players in any real kind of way. I mean, they'll meet McKay when they sign, and then the odd couple of wee nods and things like that. But it's not as if they'll have any kind of day-to-day contact with him, I wouldn't think.
Hmm. It was just,
And Ange,
you know,
we know Ange doesn't let them. Well, he's not going to let them get distracted with stuff that's going on around
I think I'm kind of more upsetting really than shocked with Dom leaving, because as you said, Mark, there, like, and Terence said, like, we were buying into his project for the club, and we were gradually seeing change. We were gradually seeing like the fan media. He was being more connected with the fans. We were seeing.
There's been no murmurings, Paul, that he was unhappy or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, for the last few, even considering we lost the Derby game, it's still, we were talking about it the other night, it's still been a kind of positive vibe all around about the club.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It just came right out the blues, you know. I mean, usually if there's some kind of friction going on behind the scenes, you get wee snippets, say, even leaking to the media, because they've all got their wee pet poodles that they give their own wee version of events to kind of things. But
Yeah, it's a real private thing, Mark, isn't it?
I think it is just completely down to something in his personal life. It'll probably come out in the wash, but I don't think I don't think it's anything Celtic done wrong. I don't think it's anything Dominic McKay's done wrong.
Mm-hmm. Look, moving on. Look, because I don't really want to be speculating, Mark, or going into conspiracy theories due to the fact that it came out that it was personal reasons, and we don't want to be speculating anything because we don't know anything. So we'll move on then. So with the international football finished, we'll take a look at the Celtic players who run international duty and how their countries got on. Only two Celtic players in the Scotland squad. We had David Turnbull and Conor McGregor. Scotland lost 2-0 to Denmark. They won against Moldova 1-0, and they beat Austria 1-0. The biggest thing about hair turns for me with Scotland is how, and we're outsiders, Max, so I'm not going to come to you, like Terence being from Ireland as well, and you're looking at that Scotland team and you wonder to yourself how David Turnbull is not getting into that Scotland team.
Yeah, it's a strange one, all right, Paul. But I suppose like Steve Clarke has always kind of been a defensive-minded kind of guy, and maybe he seems to be also to be a guy that sticks very much to the guys. He's loyal, if you want to put it that way. He doesn't really tinker with the team too much, like. So, like, I mean, the majority. I know McGregor was on the bench, I think, against Moldova, and he came on. But normally it's McGregor and Billy Gilmore, and it depends who you've got John McGinn in there as well. So you've got there's a lot of good quality guys in midfield for Turnbull to kind of push his way into it. And that's only obviously my opinion on it. So from that side of it, just those three guys alone. And if you put, I don't know, sometimes if McTominay is sitting and McGregor's further forward, he could maybe play, or Billy Gilmore, they could maybe play in Turnbull's role a little bit further forward. So there's real quality in that area. So, I mean, and look, I think Mark even mentioned it the last time after the Derby game. Turnbull hasn't actually played that many games for league games in general. So, I mean, he's still young. He came on, I think, twice. So, I think it's a slow progression for him in that sense when he'll come on. But there is quality players there in that area. So he just has to bide his time for me,
Mark, do you want to come in? Terence is kind of really stating the obvious there, isn't it?
Well, I don't really follow international football, but I just, even with the names Terence is mentioning there, Paul, I just go back to what I said after the Derby game as well about Turnbull. He's a bit lightweight. Steve Clarke likes his midfielders to have, didn't he? He likes to have a wee bit of the physical side to their game, you know what I mean? There's John McGinn doesn't mind a tackle, but that wee Billy Gilmore's the same. I think that's one of the things that's kind of holding Turnbull's progression back. You just need to kind of maybe toughen up a wee bit.
Moving on, we had Israel. We have Neil Beaton and Lille Abida. They beat Faroe Islands 4-0. They beat Austria 5-2. They lost against Denmark 5-0. I wasn't hearing so much about Lille there, but people were raving about Neil Beaton here again, Mark, with Israel. He seems to be doing well on international games. Anytime Israel are playing, he seems to be really stepping up, Neil Beaton.
Aye. Very good.
No, but I'm just saying it like that.
Good
You know that
for him.
he's rated. He's still like consider how we criticise him.
That's a good result against Austria.
Yeah.
Did you say they beat them 5-2?
5-2, yeah, and it's going to come down now to Israel and Scotland again, and that was the same for the last. Is it 3 years? I think, Terence, that they met kind of in the last game of the group stages in things. I think, you know.
Yeah, they played. Didn't they play them? Would it be over
last year? Yeah.
Last year they played them in. Was it home and away or something like that?
Yeah.
He plays it quite regular then in qualifiers.
You know,
But did Abida play for them?
Yeah, he was. But it was mostly that they were raving about Beaton.
How did he play?
He played out. Where he plays with us, Mark, out on the right.
No, where did Beaton play?
Centre back.
Centre back.
Centre back.
Centre back, yeah. That's probably why they scored 5 goals last 5 games against Denmark. You know, but like we always kind of criticise him and because they think, but he does seem to be doing well on international duty terms, don't they?
Yeah, but come on, seriously, Paul. Even listen, he might be good in the internationals. Like, look at the greatest respect. Look at Shane Duffy. Shane Duffy looks like Maldini with Ireland. Do you know what I mean? He looked like Stevie Wonder with Celtic. Do you know what I mean? No offense meant him. Like, but he's out of his skin. He's the best striker Ireland have, and he was obviously there was a lot of other reasons behind it, but he was terrible at Celtic. Near Beaton isn't even a relation to a centre back. Not even a relation to a centre back, regardless of anything to do with Israel. Maybe the guy beside him is absolutely brilliant. Maybe we should have that.
John Kennedy's aside him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Moving on, we had Karl Starfelt from Sweden. Sweden beat Spain 2-1, and Sweden beat Azerbaijan 2-1. Sweden are a tough country to play against, and you can see
best in the world, didn't they?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, Mark, because of the financial strain, I would say that's in the Spanish league now, you can really see that it's affecting their national team as well, can't you? You know, like couple of years back, you could see Spain maybe hammering Sweden 5, maybe 4-0. You know, but it's really
Spain always have a couple of stinker results, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I just off the top of my head, they always.
Spain would normally come through, kind of come good, kind of near the end, or kind of when they get to the World Cups or the Euros, you know, when they get into the next stage, you know. But it's good to see that, you know, Starfelt is getting caught up to the Swedish team in this.
I wouldn't expect Sweden to beat Spain. You really mean that would be like a cooting buster that game, wouldn't it? Yeah,
you know, I think that was the shock of that group result. You know, people were saying that Sweden were comfortable against Spain. You know, that their level looked under pressure. They never looked like losing the game.
Well, you know, Starfelt's confidence of power are good as well.
Yeah.
I don't think he played against.
No,
he played against Spain.
He played against Spain, no, but he came on against Azerbaijan.
Yeah, he came on against Azerbaijan or one of them crowd. But I think in the 3 matches Sweden played, he was only on the bench for the Azerbaijan or the Uzbekistan game, and he came on there. It was unfortunate. It was the gentleman from the other side of the city who scored in the derby match was centre back in the 3 games, all right. But Starfelt only came on in the second game. He wasn't involved in the first.
He's young, Terence, you know, and for Starfelt to get caught up, it's good for him as well, and confidence-wise, you know, to be around different defenders, kind of learning off them as well, isn't this for his confidence?
It's brilliant, Paul. And listen, I think Starfelt's a fine player. I really do, and I think he's only going to get better and better. And it's great to see him getting involved in the in the national team. As I said, more exposure for him, and more the more he plays for Celtic, and touch wood, the better he plays for Celtic, the more he could push for a place for the start side for Sweden.
Next we had Kyogo, Japan. Japan lost against Oman 1-0, and they lost against China 1-0. I'm not going to dwell too much into Kyogo because we're going to talk about him later, but the big story was that Kyogo came off injured and he's going to miss, is it 4 to 3 weeks, Mark, I think?
3 to 4 weeks, I've seen.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that more on things. So Tom Rogic played with Australia. Australia beat China 3-0, and they beat Vietnam 1-0 again. Terence, want to come in?
Vietnam. That's my point. What in the name of God is he doing going playing Vietnam?
See, that's it. This is my. I'd be very interested now to see the team tomorrow, and if Rogic is on it.
He hasn't a hope. You couldn't play him tomorrow, Paul.
That's
half around the world,
and that's the problem, isn't it? That he's traveling across the world and he's missing games that Celtic want him because we have injuries, Mark. The squad still isn't really. Do you know what I mean? He should be there with Celtic players. You know what I mean?
See the way he's been playing for us, Paul.
Exactly.
He could run amok against Ross County.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, but I don't know. I don't expect. Well, we're going to name our lineups later on, but I'm not expecting them to start them more. No.
I think as well is.
But I wouldn't have thought. See, honestly, if Kyogo was injured, I don't think he would have started them more either.
Do you know what, Terence? Do you know if these matches here with Australia were played in neutral grounds as well?
They were playing in Dubai.
Dubai was it as well, yeah.
Obviously, they were all kind of.
Australia was on the red zone or something like that, I think.
Yeah. Well, Australia
it's closed.
No one in and out.
Yeah.
No one in and out. It doesn't matter. It's on complete lockdown. But it's just the problem that kills. It's the killer with Rogic. As soon as he strikes any bit of form, bang, back in the Australian setup. Any bit of form. It was the same there, under Rodgers when he was playing great football. He was back in when he's in the horrors when he was with Lennon and he wasn't playing much. He's not even considered.
He was going out there and he was getting injured because he wasn't fit, because he wasn't playing with Neil Lennon's team either. And then he's fit, and then he goes out. Then he's all going to be legged coming back here. Then turns into it.
Oh yeah. Listen. I'd say, to be fair, no better man than Ange. He knows the journey itself. So but I'd say he's thinking about Rogic for maybe during the week. I'd say he hasn't even. I'd be surprised if you see Rogic even on the bench, to be honest with you, because to play the matches, to do the journey, to come back, to be you'd have to be exhausted, and as well as that, as we said the last time, he has his duty-free fags for the barrel, and he smoked 300 of them already. So you know what I mean. He'd be sorted. But I like Mark said there, I can't see him being involved tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Next we had Conor Hazard for Northern Ireland. They beat Lithuania 4-1 and they beat Estonia 1-0. I don't think Hazard played in both games. Terence, did he? I think it was it Carson, I think was in goal, I think.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, I don't so there's not much there. And the only 21s we had, Welch and Montgomery, they drew 1-1 against Turkey on the 21s. But the big news from the international games was that long terms how long Celtic star will be out after picking up an injury while being on duty with Japan. Celtic manager Ange confirmed that Kyogo will be out to 4 weeks, which is a huge blow to Celtic considering how Kyogo has been since joining the club. Kyogo will miss games against Ross County tomorrow before a trip to Real Betis Thursday night. That follows a trip to Livingston on the 19th of September before Celtic take on Red Rovers in the League Cup on Thursday the 23rd. Next it's Dundee United at Celtic Park on Sunday the 26th of September before we face Leverkusen the 30th of September. Realistically, the earliest we can expect Kyogo to be back is a trip to Pittodrie on the 3rd of October, but perhaps, I'm being realistic, we mightn't see him back until we travel to Fir Park on the 16th of October. Big games, Mark, especially in Europe, that we could do with Kyogo, considering how well he's been since he joined the club. Ain't this, you're looking at there, like, you think of 4 weeks, Mark, you think it's not that long. But when you break it down into the games, like there's midweek games there, there's weekend games there, and and they're big games, aren't they?
I mean, hopefully we've got enough to guddle by without him in Scotland, Paul. But the European games, he was kind of, we'd have been looking at him for that wee bit of something special. He'd have been like him to be the difference that could have got us points against these Europa League teams. It's going to be a bit of a blow, but well, we'll not be arguing about if he's to play in the left or through the middle for a month anyway, wouldn't we know?
Terence, do you want to come in on Kyogo's injury?
It's like Mark said. I mean, he was your kind of X factor, especially in Europe. He was a standout. Like I would agree with what Mark is saying there as well. I would certainly think that we should have enough for the games. Majority of the games you named out there, Paul, in Scotland. It's the European ones that you were kind of going, because we're short on bodies up front, and it's interesting actually, because I was reading the report about Kyogo, and some reporter or some manager guy was saying Celtic will be going mad because he was actually playing on the left for Japan.
Yeah.
When he got the injury, he wasn't playing through the middle. He was playing on the left wing. No, not that. Look, he could have got the injury through the middle. It's all one, like, but yeah, it's a big disappointment, and it's not so much the 3 to 4 weeks, Paul, but like it might be 3 weeks. Well, the games as well, but you also have to take into consideration if it's 4 weeks out, his fitness is going to drop. I'm sure he's a very fit young man. There's no doubt about it. But it could take another week or two to get back. So like you could be anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, before he's up to full pelt. Now that hopefully it's quicker than that, but that's the other side of it. He's resting, he's recovering, and then he's getting right. But then he's got to slowly build it back up again. And well, look, we just have to make do without him for the time being. And the other players just need to step up that are in that position. It's a chance for Ayeti, and it's a chance for Jacko now. The two of them have to prove a point.
Other injury news and important information about tomorrow is that Ange also said that Jacko, he won't start tomorrow's game against Ross County, and said he's a bit behind in terms of fitness and hasn't played since May. So it's more than likely, as Terence said there, that Ayeti will play off front. But Mark, Ange pointed out again that Ayeti has been working extremely hard in training the last couple of weeks again, and it is, as Terence said, Mark, it's a chance now for Yeti to show us what he can do. Like if he's as fit as what Ange is saying, we should be able to see a Yeti be able to keep up with Ange's style of play.
Well, he's here for the next 6 months anyway, Paul. So
yeah,
you'd like to think he'd knuckle down and try and prove and show that he's worthy. A place. I mean, obviously, he's never going to be first choice unless he, I don't know, but some miracle happens with him. But I mean, it's up to him now to grab the chance and show that he's worthy of a place in the squad and that he can be relied on. I mean, if he goes out there and just he puts in a good shift, it's even if he doesn't score, but he goes out there and puts in a good shift, he's an improvement on what Edward's been.
Well, he's been last season himself as well, Mark. You know what I mean? Because all the news is that James McCarthy is fit, and he could feature tomorrow. Radisson, Mark, I believe, is out with COVID. He's isolated for 10 days, which is a blow for him, mostly, Mark, considering how well he was doing.
Well, we said, Paul, went to the jersey, the right back position. It was his to lose, or somebody to come in, take it. So the way the dice is fell into it, Juranovic will probably get the chance some more of playing at right back, I'd think.
And I was wondering two terms when people were saying, why didn't Steve Clark call Radisson up to the Scotland team? And he said at the moment, calling up Radisson is complicated. And when you look back at it now, you can see why he said that, because we gave Ange informed today that Radisson has COVID. It is a blow, considering that Ralston was one of our kind of star players since Ange came in.
Well, listen, for me, Paul, he's been the best player stand up for Celtic by, he's been absolutely outstanding. If you were to say who was the player of the year up to here, I know it's only a few games, he'd be mine because the guy's turnaround is phenomenal. But we're just so lucky that
we got players
we have got Jovanovic in there, because like if this was a couple of weeks ago, we'd have had no one at right back. They'd have been looking at maybe putting Stephen Welsh there because they didn't have anyone. But at least we have him that we can put him in there, and obviously, hopefully that Ralston recovers quickly and recovers safely. That's the main thing. That's a horrible illness to have. That's the main thing first and foremost. Once he gets better, football can take a backseat when you see like some poor Mikey there who's struggling badly, and so first and foremost, once he gets fit and he gets healthy and he gets well, the football will always be there. That's the main thing.
Mark, Taylor isn't kind of match fit either, so he's not going to feature tomorrow either. We know James Foss is kind of back in training, but he's not going to be featured tomorrow because again he's not match fit. And Julian, I believe, Mark, isn't going to be available now to maybe November, middle of November. That he's not where he should be during his rehab. I was reading today, there's a big injury list there, Mark. So early in the season, isn't this?
Well, it's not really up to say Ralston. It is a bit of a key injury because he was playing so well, but lucky to get your hand of the chin. But we knew Julian was going to book. Do you know what I mean? Kind of mid-term for the season anyway. But
I was saying anyway, Mark, that it could be at least December when we should expect to see Julian kind of match fit. Because if he's going to be back in training, like Terence said there about Kyogo, if he's going to be back in training in November, realistically, if he's fit, he might be December when we see him. It was that knock when we hit the post.
What is actually his injury?
I don't know.
His head. It's blows. I think that's it.
I mean, guys have come back from broken legs, and to get bad broken legs in that in less time than Julian's been out.
No, I think he's a bit soft now, in fairness, as well, though. There's a little bit of the all girls blows about him, like.
I agree with that, Terence. I don't think
he could knock. Like, if you really wanted to, I'm sure it was a bad bang, but you could kind of, try and work through it a little bit more. I don't know. Sometimes footballers, for me, they just, I don't know, they kind of milk it a bit, and I think I could be wrong.
See, you could hear him screaming on the telly and that. That used to.
It was more about. Remember,
annoy me.
Jurgen Klopp said about Sturridge that it was more in his head than it was in his body, that he feared of an injury. Do you know what I mean? That he going into attack.
Liam saying it's a shattered kneecap that he had. Oh, fear that's got to hurt right enough.
Fair enough. If that's what he's had, then we'll take it back.
But I think the big news about that injury list, Mark, is we might finally get to see James McCarthy start again, considering that Rogic won't be playing, that McCarthy will come into that midfield role, and maybe Cal McGregor and Turner might push up a bit more into Rogic's role, considering Christie's not there either.
I've picked the three midfielders, McGregor, McCarthy and Turnbull, Paul, my lineup. I think it will be.
It'd be the same. They were the exact same trio I had it.
But it is, Mark, you could see in the last couple of games, most of them were playing, I would say, not better, but tougher opposition than what we were playing in AC Almar and Rangers. That's where we needed a James McCarthy. I know that we're playing kind of less opposition. Maybe McCarthy will get more game time. Because
as well that they kind of been a bit. I don't know. I can't mind the word for word what he said it was, but he said they kind of wrapped him up in a bit of cotton wool, and he could have maybe played before this. No, I mean, I said that game at Ibrox was screaming out for somebody like McCarthy in the midfield. So,
I think Armstrong was kind of protecting him as well, Mark.
But that's what he says, we probably protect him a bit too much. But I mean, you've just got to go with the sports science guys and take your judgment. but Ange, you know what I mean? But he decides it's his decision. So hopefully that's him back to match fitness and ready to become a regular in the team. Because I think he'll make a big difference to the team, Paul. I really do.
Will we see our new signings, Yasa, Scales, and Vickers maybe coming into the start lineup tomorrow? Like, I don't want your predictions now, but will we see them coming in, do you think?
Okay.
Terence?
Can't
Mark?
that without giving you lineups, can we?
If you
It's
say
in your
that,
lineups we talk about the match, so I start yourself, Mark.
But the lineup,
Yeah.
right, obviously I've went with Joe Hart, Juranovic, Welsh, Starfelt and Scales, the back four, McGregor, McCarthy and Turnbull in the midfield, and Abada, Ayeti and Jota up front.
I went the same, but I took out Welch and I put in Vickers. I think that I feel like he being a bit more toughness than what's needed at that back. I still think the back line is very light. That there's kind of no toughness against them. There's no kind of physique, but Cameron would bring that toughness. Now I don't know if he's match fit. Does he actually need that thing? But the big thing for me is that, and I said on the forum during the week, Mark, it wouldn't surprise me. I said it wouldn't surprise me if Scales would start at the weekend. And I said that too on Skype. That I was talking to one of my work colleagues, and he said that Scales will start because he's a massive Shamrock Rovers fan, and he says that Scales is going to start at the weekend. But it just shows, Mark, how we've seen it with Ange throughout the season so far, that he's not afraid to throw players in. Like we had Kyogo, we had Abidar, we had Starfelt, Joseph against Rangers, he threw him in.
This international break, Paul, he said over a week kind of thing to train with Ange and get to
Mm-hmm.
systems.
And then Ange actually probably saw too, Mark, that because I was saying this, and Terence knows about Scales as well. Like, he's fast, he's young, and Ange would say, like, I don't need to be having 3 or 4 sessions with this fella. This fella can just start from the start. What's your take on Scales, Terence? That
I think
it's more likely that he will be getting a start tomorrow.
Yeah, I had him in my team for tomorrow. Like, I'd have him definitely playing. I mean, he's been playing all season. He's been playing in Europe. So for me, he was a definite start at fullback. Now I would have definitely had him in there. I would have obviously gone with Hart. I can't pronounce the Croatian lad's name. Juranovic, Scales, Starfelt. Welsh, Starfelt, Scales. I would have gone the same 3 midfield: McCarthy, McGregor, Turnbull, Jota, Abida, and Ayeti up front. That would have been my team, but I think Scales is definitely going to start. As you man, the Vickers guy, he played a lot of pre-season. He's played pre-season matches with Spurs. They were saying today, so he should be reasonably up to match fitness. But I would still try and keep the certainly the back four obviously as normal as they could. Obviously, if Ralston was fit, I'd have started Ralston, and I'd have still started Scales. I think he's definitely deserves a crack at left back.
What Terence was saying there about Scales, like the Irish League is a summer league. It starts in the summer, so Scales is like we're halfway through we be halfway through the season now, Terence. I mean, so he's up to he's match fit, like So
and as we said this before, Paul, the League of Ireland people look down.
And Ross County would be on the same level, really, as what Shamrock Rovers would be better than I would say they'd be better than Ross County, Terence, wouldn't they?
Yeah. But sure, Paul, if he wasn't match fit, he wouldn't have been called into the Republic of Ireland squad.
Exactly.
He wouldn't be in the Republic of Ireland squad if he wasn't. If he wasn't fit enough. I know.
I think it's an ideal game for him to make his debut.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it too. I'm looking forward to seeing him because, like he's. I haven't watched him lately over COVID and with the League of Ireland. It's only kind of shown once a blue moon and on Irish television, which is a real shame. Like, we don't promote the game as they should, but he's getting great reviews. Like, he scores goals in Europe. He's thinking, like, so he's playing at the top level, Mark, that he could play in. Do you know what I mean? Like, he scored goals in Europe, and I think, like, people are saying, on the front. It's a big step up. Yeah.
Stinker, you're going to take pelters for this, boy.
Yeah. Fucking banging no Gino and Jesus Christ.
He won't, Paul. He'll have a stormer, Paul. I guarantee he'll have a storm. He'll have a storm.
Oh, Mark, I think we're going to see a big difference in.
See while we're talking about Paul and his daft things, right? He was did I mention about the pieces?
No.
Right, see when he was doing this thing, his players about the new signings or his review of the players that we'd signed, he'd done for the last podcast. He writes everything down, right? Something like that to him. Oh, I'll need to get the wife to make me up a flask of Bovril and some pieces. And he didn't know what pieces were. I said, Scottish sandwiches. He asked me, what do you have in them? What do you mean?
Terence.
Anything you want. It's 2 bits of bread with anything you want in between it.
Ham and cheese, Paul. You can have ham and cheese in it. You'll be fine. Bit of butter and you'll be laughing.
Did you know what pieces were, Terence? Did you know what pieces were?
Throw in a few potatoes as well and you'll be laughing.
Did you know what pieces were?
Me, not a clue, no.
No.
Lie your way through it, bud. Just go, oh yeah, of course they do. He doesn't know you don't know it.
You watch all the Scottish comedies, you must have known what a piece was.
I didn't do it, and I'd watch Ramsey Nisbet and all that, and I used to love that. But no, I wouldn't have had a Scoobies, to be honest, but at the same time, I'd have bluffed it though. I'd have said, yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh, Bobby Sutherland. Bobby's up tonight. Night guy's got to get the wee man's birthday banners and that sorted for tomorrow. Hail, God bless. Happy birthday, your laddie. 7th birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday to your laddie, Bobby, for all the lads.
Happy birthday, young man.
I think it's as well tomorrow, Terence, it's the ideal game for Celtic to come back into Ross County, considering the defeat to Rangers 2 weeks ago. It's the ideal game for us to kind of get back to winning ways as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's just hit the reset button, go back to what you were doing good, and keep doing it, and do it better and better and better. That whatever's happened in the past is gone. It's like my hair; it's long gone. It's not coming back.
Do you know what will be interesting though tomorrow is that will we eventually see the proper of Ange's inverted full backs mark, that now we have a fast winger in Scales on the left, and I'm not going to say that Ralston didn't do his job, but Joseph.
I'm really excited with Juranovic, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought the Derby game, he just strolled through that. He never looked under any real pressure or nothing. He never phased with anything or nothing. I mean, was it JFP that says his laddie knew quite a bit about him? He says he was worth 3 times what we paid for him.
Definitely, yeah.
He could be a right good signing for us.
And he played all 3 games for Croatia as well over the international period. He started all 3 and played. I think he played the game like everyone.
Round up, Paul.
You know, that's a big concern, though, isn't it? That, you know, and I said it on the forum as well, like that. It's a lot of travelling, and for clubs and their players. Like in a week, you're playing 3 games, Terence, and you're travelling a lot within in that week for these games. Like, you know, like how do UEFA and things like rectify that? Like, because surely God, it's having an effect on the players as well, isn't it?
Well, okay, yeah, you can probably, some of them might get a bit leggy, but it's early enough in the season, and some of these guys, a lot of these guys are so professional. I mean, the normal proper athletes like Juranovic and that, I'd say he'll come in tomorrow and it won't knock a stir out of the guy. It won't knock a stir out of the guy. And the majority of the guys, you watch Callum McGregor tomorrow as well, it won't knock a stir out of him. Because these guys they're real professionals. Like they live, eat, breathe football. I mean, you know, they know how to, and with the sports science guys and everything there, you know how to recover. Like there's so much data there to go.
Told when to sleep. Do you know what I mean? Get right, you go to sleep at this time and eat this time.
100%.
So that
100%.
Jet lag doesn't affect them as much and everything. I mean, I know
you're
saying, Paul, it is a lot of travel, but I mean, they're not sitting in a bus. Do you get what I mean? They're not sitting on a council bus. They're the best of luxury travelling and things like that. Best of hotels and stuff like that.
But apart from maybe Rogic and Kyogo, the majority of the other lads, I think, were reasonably, you know, it was mainly in Europe. They weren't traveling, half around the world like the like Kyogo and Rogic. So you'd hope that it's a case that it's they're back in the country quick enough. They'll be settled back in quickly enough. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would imagine it won't knock a star out of them too much, because I'd say with the whole COVID and everything else, as soon as they finish their match, they're up and they're gone. There's no kind of waiting around anymore, I would imagine.
Not only though will our eyes be on Scales and Jovanovic tomorrow, Mark, it's going to give us a chance to see Yotta as well tomorrow. I know we have our concerns about him, about this loan deal and the buy clause we have in it, but we'll be able to see what kind of player he is as well tomorrow, and hopefully he actually prove us wrong, that he is a good player, Oh,
I don't think we said he was a bad player.
No, we didn't. No, but I'm just saying like that. Compare what they were saying in the analysis the other day, like that. His finishing his passing seems to be poor. His distribution seems to be poor. Do you know that?
A
bit raw.
A bit rough around the edges, and again, we've got the right manager to bring the best out in him. So, I mean, if he's playing tomorrow, it's going to be his first game, and we know Ross County are going to be a bit physical, so we'll find out how we can take that kind of side of the game tomorrow. But I mean,
it's a big difference, Mark.
I kind of watched him and read what he was saying. And I kind of took a bit of a shine into him. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, it's a big difference for him to be playing. We say against I would say, how would you explain Portuguese football, Mark? I would say it's not. Ross County won't be a team that would be in the Portuguese league kind of a thing, that.
No.
See how that affects him. Like, would he be able to take the physical approach? Because he's a young lad, he's not that strong, physical enough, But be interested to see how he does tomorrow. And I think the only downer is that Kyogo isn't fit, so we could actually start up. I would say
partnerships and
between the three of them, Abada, Kyogo, and thing. Yeah. And I think as well, we might see Jacko maybe come on maybe the second half late start, because he hasn't been playing since May. What is that? Oh, was he banned for a couple of games as well, Mark? I think was it that he hasn't been playing.
I read something about that, Paul. I seen something, some article about him being banned for games as well.
It's just a shame, because he would have been really the ideal replacement to slot into that position, wouldn't he? Into Kyogo's position, I
don't know about unfair even on a Yeti.
Mark, there's a big creek like wind there or something coming through.
Is that better?
Yeah, I don't know what that was, like a train or something coming through there.
Well, I never heard anything. Did you, Terence?
I did, yeah.
No, I was heard anything there.
An interference, I think.
Are you expecting Terence Celtic to go all gun blazing tomorrow and maybe get a good result tomorrow against Ross County?
Oh, yeah, as I said, Paul, I think it's hit the reset button, go out and do exactly what you've been doing. Like, the majority of the players that we would have named have been there all along under Ange. There's one or two maybe coming in, possibly, that are going to come in, but at the same time, they're quality footballers. They should be able to adjust, and obviously Ange has had them for a week. He's going to be able to, I know it's only a week, he's going to be able to say to them, look, this is the way we want to play, this is what I want you to do. But for argument's sake, Jota does start on the wing. I mean, whether he's doing it with Benfica or whether he's doing it with Celtic, if he's on the left wing, he knows his job.
Yeah.
He needs to beat the man, supply it, and also obviously work back when the ball is lost. And he'll find out very quick if he's not doing that, because Ange doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to be, as he said himself, he's not a guy to put an arm around someone. He'll more likely give him a boot up the arse, like.
Yeah, because I remember pre-season, remember, Mark, I said to you about Christie doing that misplaced pass, and Ange putting his hands into his head, like, like, that's the type of, like, Ange would tell you your mistake, do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't want you doing that kind of thing. He doesn't want you kind of doing this long pass. It's not on just stylish, so it's not that kind of Christie, what Christie was kind of trying to do in pre-season. There wasn't on just style, But
It's a sign of a good coach, Paul.
yeah,
Well,
it is.
and I mean, go through the game. They all sitting, oh, they should be all sitting watching games together and pointing out them. Do you get what I mean? On
Yeah,
the team with the coaches and pointing out the mistakes and learning from the mistakes. That's the only way you're going to become a better player.
and two, what Terence was saying there, and I think like if you look at the squad now, Mark, choke the whole squad. Yotta's our only real natural left-sided player in the squad. Like I know you can play Forrest out there, but that's not Forrest's natural role. Like Forrest is mostly on the right. He's right, but that Yotta is our only thing now. Do you think he maybe might utilise that position between Montgomery and Yotta, considering we saw Montgomery play that maybe for a role? Like if you look at it, like we have Scales, Montgomery, Bolingoli, and Taylor. That's the left backs. Like one of them has to go. And is the Turkish transfer window, Mark, still open? Or is that closed now, or what?
I think it's closed now, Paul.
So Bolingoli is going to be here as well till January.
Yeah.
Just buy me a ticket. I beat something. Leave them off.
So but like it's a role that one of them is going to lose out, and I wouldn't like to see Montgomery lose out, Terence. Do you know what I mean?
He won't lose out. The young lad, the young lad is quality, and like, I mean, against AZ Alkmaar, he was man of the match for me. And like
and even his distribution of passing is next to none as well. Like he can play a good cross as well. He's gone a lot really for a young lad, Terence, don't he?
He does, but like I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, he set up the goal in the under 21 match as well. I think his cross was he assisted for the goal in that under 21 game. But like, he's there. He knows what's expected of him. He knows what Ange wants of him. So whether that's in the left back role or if it happens to be up on the left side of midfield, left wing, I would have no fear of putting that young man in there. Absolutely no problem. If Jota ran out of steam after 60 minutes or whatever, and he has to come on, I think there's absolutely no issue there with him whatsoever to be playing there.
Yeah, I actually agree with you there. Like I couldn't see Yotta maybe playing the whole game tomorrow, Mark, considering it's only his kind of first game at the club. Do you think he might bring Montgomery into that role?
I think so. That's probably the way you'll go with it. I think as I said, I think Yacht will start, but I'm with Terence. I've got no qualms with playing the young
no, that's what we were looking for, Mark, weren't they? To bring this young lad on.
It's Ross County. Our young players should be capable of doing their job against Ross County.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, see, really, Paul, see, like this game, the more of that is for me the kind of game I speak about all the time, where you should be put a couple of young players in, and that our young players should be at the level to be able to beat Ross County. Again, disrespecting them, but we put a lot more money into our young players and even probably put into their first team players into that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a game, Mark, where I'd love to see even a young lad like Moffat. If we're saying that we're kind of limited on the wing positions, have him on the bench tomorrow, and go. And if it was a case, hopefully we're 3-4 up. Go to him, like, okay, there's 25 minutes. Show me what you could do.
Definitely.
At least, and then go. Okay, we have another option. If, God forbid, we lost two wingers or whatever, you can go, okay, away you go, because that young man in pre-season was absolutely outstanding.
And even in the Colts League, he's doing very well as well. He seems to be kind of progressing well. But one thing that I noticed the last 2-3 games, Mark, was that how weak our bench looked. That there was no one on there really to come on and make it. And I think it's going to be the same tomorrow. I think maybe we'll have Barkas, Beeson, Montgomery. We might have young Dane Murray on there as well, I think. Who else is there? Jacko. Considering the injuries we have, the bench is still very light, isn't this?
Well, it is a bit, but again, it's down to injuries, Paul. It's just.
But that's what I'm saying, yeah. It's just bad luck.
If Ralston hadn't get COVID, if Thiago hadn't get injured,
yeah.
I mean, our bench is looking stronger right away because just because whoever plays there taking up the team's going to be on the bench. Because we speak about it as well. We've went down the kind of road of trying to like puff out the squad and fill the squad with all these £2 and £3 million players, and they very rarely work out.
No.
So for me, I've said it to you, Paul. The bench should be a mixture of the older heads and more experienced players and young players. Because if you're a player in your kind of prime, you shouldn't be happy with sitting on the bench.
Yeah. No.
Talk about that, Paul. We talk about Luke O'Connell for going to talk about what's going on with young players.
Yeah, I have him down, but I just want to say that there, like that. You're on about bringing young players through, right, and having them on the bench. But the problem is then, right, if they play, we say, 10 minutes of a game 5 times, Mark, it doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes, 2 minutes, or 3 minutes. But if they play five minutes, they can't move back down to the calls thing. Then you see, and that's then hindered their progress. Then, like, so maybe Ange's actually aware of that rule, and that's why we're not seeing the likes of, as Terence said there, the lad Murphy coming on at the end of a game, because if he plays any minutes 5 times, like if he's involved, Terence, 5 games, Celtic first team, he can't drop back down to the Courts League. Do you get me?
Yeah, but isn't that only in the league? It's not in the cup matches.
Not cup matches, no. Not cup matches.
But then that, yeah, I can understand then. But that's why you would hope then in the Wraith Rovers match.
Yeah, that we will see these youngsters.
That you see those guys on it.
I'd like to see
crack like
Osman Law, come up for the Wraith Rovers game, or the likes of Liam Shaw, because I know they dropped down for himself, and Yorahidi dropped down for that game, Mark, when they played Morton. They dropped down, so there's different rules for the league, but it's just a strange like that with this Courts League that you can't have your young players involved, and I suppose, Mark, it's
you can't have your cake and eat it, Paul.
Yeah, so it's just not fair on the teams then that they're then, like if you're involved in the first team, then you're dropping down. Do you know what I mean? It's not fair then on the teams that are in that league then already. So it's not, just going on loan players. And I was talking to Mark, is that Luke O'Connell has asked his agent to get him a move out of Celtic in January. He said that there's been broken promises to him last season and this season about his involvement in the Celtic first team. He's not been on, really, Mark, he's not been on the subs bench. He's not been on the team. I personally
kind of
like Luke O'Connell. Yeah, I like him.
What's talking about him all the time?
Yeah, and I do, because I saw him play for the Irish under 21s for years, but I think Mark he's hitting nearly 22 now, Mark, and I think he's come to a stage like he's too old for the Courts League, that he needs to be playing, and he didn't get a loan deal, Mark, that he was hoping in the transfer window. But there's another problem, Mark, that needs to be addressed, is the pathway to the first team, and maybe with Gavin Strachan being involved, like that we can sort this. That we can sort this problem out, because that's what Strachan's mostly going to be coming into, is having a look at the structure of it.
Strachan's looking at the youth setup and the women's setup. We've spoken about it umpteen times, Paul. We've spoken about the young Celtic player that went to Bayern Munich. Morrison that spoke about it himself. It's all down to these young players having a pathway and knowing where their career, what direction their career's gone in. I mean, they're just at ages like O'Connell, 22.
He's wrong that, yeah, I get him up there.
22, and he's no. If a 22-year-old at a club like Celtic, and you don't know if you've got a future at the club or no, you're just a kind of limbo. That's no fair even on the player, I don't think, Paul.
He's gone on 21.
21.
Yeah.
I think, Mark, in that situation, if you're a player and you don't know if you have a future, the answer is you don't. Because if you're wondering if I have a future at Celtic, then if you have to wonder, then my answer is you don't. And if you looked at Luke O'Connell, if you were to look at him in his role, he'd be probably fourth choice. You'd have McCarthy, you have Sorrow, you have McGregor, all can play that role. And if you're saying he's for choice, like there's the hope in the lad getting again, unless there was an absolute mountain of injuries. So I couldn't see. So if I was in his shoes, you'd be kind of going, okay, look, I have to go because he's not. I can't see any way how the guy's going to get a game.
But if the club's broke promises to him as well, you've got to look.
But I think the biggest issue, Mark, is Mark, that he's not even
Get the bench or anything.
Yeah, but he's not being put down to the coach league either. I mean, he's a first team squad member. He's not part of the Colts League. He hasn't been named in the Colts League. He's been named in the first team squad. And whatever has happened in talks between himself and Ange, Mark, that he was promised game time by Ange or things like that, but something's after breaking down here between the club and Luca, and it's a pity, like, because I don't like to see young players leaving without us even seeing, Mark, if they're good enough or if they're not good enough, so we can make it
to prove themselves.
Yeah, we've seen too many leave over the years, Terence,
Oh, well, if it is like you're saying, and he was given certain promises by the club and they haven't fulfilled them or honoured them, it's bad form. It's bad form, like, you know what I mean?
Well, they've done that with Karamoka Dembele as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I suppose if you're looking at if you've been Luca Connell and you're looking and one thing and you're seeing Near Beaton on the bench as well ahead of you, you're screwed. Like, you're absolutely screwed.
Like myself and Mark was saying for months on the podcast, like, you know what I mean, like, Luca Connell should be on the bench, Mark, before Near Beaton.
Aye, definitely.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that he's taking up a place where we're blocking a pathway for a youngster to get on the first. Like, I think it's not more like Luca Connell, like, knows, Mark, he's not going to be in the first team starting lineup, but he wants to be maybe on the bench, that he could come in, you know what I mean, instead of Zorro, that kind of thing. But if you look at it too, like, the likes of Liam Shaw's not getting a look in there either, because Beaton is on the bench before Shaw and everything, like, you know what I mean? So it's not just Luke O'Connell, like, Beaton has taken up a place where he shouldn't be taking up a place, do you know?
You have to be given a fair crack at the whip.
Yeah.
You have to be given a fair crack at the whip. If you're bringing in a guy and you're going, look, this is what I have you in my plans, I'm looking for you to do this, I'm looking for you to do that, and then you get no go, you get no chance to prove yourself, it's not very fair. It's not very fair. I mean, if Celtic don't think the lad is going to make it with Celtic, and by all accounts, everything seems to point to that, they should have said to him in pre-season, look, you're not really in our plans. We have this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. And the two other guys you mentioned there, Paul, as well, as you said, you as much as I hate saying it, but Beaton and Shaw, they're obviously clearly both ahead of him if they're on the bench. So there's two on the bench, and there's Sorrow, McGregor, McCarthy. So that's 5 players ahead of him. There's absolutely no chance he's going to get a crack. No chance.
Another player who went out on loan was young Rob. Said he went to and he spoke that he had a discussion with Ange before he went, and Ange told him that this season he's not going to be a first team writer. He wants him to go out on loan, again, get first team experience, and he'll come back, Mark, and he'll be. So we're gradually starting to see a plan. Like, players should be going out on loan. Like, maybe it was best that maybe Luca Khan could have got a loan. He might get that in January because he got that loan deal in January when he went out on loan. You know, but it's just really concerning at the moment that we still don't have kind of a real plan for youths, and we're speaking about it, Mark, a lot, like, and it seems to be a problem that's still there, and it doesn't seem to be kind of getting fixed, really, does it?
Things like that, Paul, take a bit of time to get fixed.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't see. To be honest, it looks as if Luca Connell's just gave it up, new kind of idea. So as I said to you when we were talking about him earlier on Skype and that, maybe Ange could maybe put an arm about him and get him to change his mind. But I think it's maybe just went too far down the line. I mean, young players will get peeved off if they think they're getting messed about.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to go train. No one wants to go training every day and just not play a game. No one does. It doesn't matter whether it's down with your local club or if you're with Celtic. You know, no one just wants to go training. the whole buzz is playing a match day, playing games, being involved in squads, being involved in panels. If you're not doing that, no matter where you are, as I said, if it's with your local club or in Luke O'Connell's case with Celtic, you're going to think, I need to move on. I want to play ball. Like I said, you're saying, do you know what I mean? He's only 20. He's 22. He wants to kind of put a foothold on it, because I'm sure at 22, he's probably looking at, even from myself and Paul's side of it, the Irish side. He's probably looking at the Irish side for the middle of the field of the Irish side. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, if the guy is not playing regular football, and he's no chance of getting involved in any of that, like, you know.
Just going what you said about the Irish side, was it the last call up, not this call up, the last call up to the under-21s? Man just said that Luke O'Connell's development at Celtic is after taking 2 years of a setback since he joined Celtic. You know, so it's not just the first team; it just seems to be more of a development mark within our youth policy at the moment. But then I'm looking at Tom McIntyre with the Colts team, Mark, and he seems to be doing a great job there with the Colts League. You know, McIntyre seems they seem to be doing, the young players they're holding their own, Mark, which isn't an easy league. Yourself and Barry were telling me, you know.
It's just the same thing, Paul. I spoke about.
Yeah.
It's not just Celtic, by the way. For me, this has been a problem in Scottish football for years. That there's Scottish, for years we've had all these brilliant young Scottish players coming through, and then see when they get to 19, 20, when they should be at the stage for being a young player to being a first player, they lose something. I've spoke about it before. I'm old enough to mean that Scotland under 16s getting to a World Cup final.
Yeah.
And out of that full team, I'm sure there was only Paul Dickoff that actually made any kind of career out of it, just off the top of my head. He was at Arsenal, Man City, when Man City were obviously poor in that at the time. But I mean, these players, it's just been even you've seen it for years with Celtic, all these young players that are the next best thing. And you see them as young players, and they are really good young players, but they don't really progress to anything, to like the next level you'd expect them to go. For me, it's across Scottish football that's a kind of problem. I don't know whether it's a kind of hang up about, oh, you can't play him, he's only 17 or no, but other countries seem to manage the way they handle their youth.
Yeah, a good example you gave of that, Mark, was you gave a good example on the podcast before. Like Ajax would sell a young player for 30, 40 million, and then they have the next young player to replace him. And I think that's the problem, Mark, is that because there's so much of a demand on Celtic to win, and that if they put a young player in and they lose, that young player will be singled out. And I think that's the main problem here, do you think, is it?
Well, look at the way Starfelt's been singled out for having a bit
Yeah.
of a rocky start. I mean, if you're 18 or 19-year-old, you know that all these young players are on our social media and all this kind of stuff nowadays.
Yeah.
So you imagine you're only 18, 19-year-old, and you've that OG against AZ Alkmaar, that's happened to you. Imagine sitting there in the flight and the way home stroking through your social media and seeing some of the grief and the abuse that you would be getting on it.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about that before, Paul. That's a big problem. Celtic, I joke about it on the forum, a Celtic player will be judged by his last touch of the ball. You know what I mean? If you make a good pass, oh, what a player. And if you make a bad pass, oh, he's garbage, he's no interested. Do you get what I mean? It's that fickle these days in football.
Yeah. But I know that when Gordon Strachan was coming in, Mark, he was supposed to kind of restructure this and do a consulting role, and he was supposed to report back to Dominic McKay about what needs changing. To think maybe he will be reporting back to maybe Ange now, or will he be reporting back to the likes of Ian Banker? We don't know what's kind of going to happen there now, do we?
No, even if it does come up with, I think it will just be sitting in a folder, Paul, till a new CEO comes in. I don't imagine Nicholson's going to be making any
decisions,
any big decisions about how the club's going to modernise and move forward. As I said, I just think he's a stopgap to keep things ticking over until somebody else comes in.
It's a kind of
I think as well. Sorry, Paul. Just go back to it. I think as well, not having a reserve league is a massive thing, because like going from a Colts to playing first team, it's a massive step. Whereas if I would think, an up and coming Colt, and you're able to play a reserve game, and for argument's sake, you're playing against Aberdeen, and all of a sudden Scott Brown is playing with Aberdeen, he's coming back from injury, or some first team player, he's coming back from injury. All of a sudden you're up against a season campaign, or where if you're centre forward and it's centre back or something like that. I think a young player would learn so much more in that environment, playing in a reserve league, than they would obviously playing the Colts and trying to go from the Colts up to the first team. I think it's just too big move.
That should be the step. Like, there should be a Colts team.
Too much money. I think it's too much money. I think is the problem. I think it's the cost of running the reserve league. I think that's what they said anyway.
It must be that, because there's no other explanation for it. They're absolutely. We've spoken about this before. It's one of the craziest things that they've ever done in Scottish football, was get rid of the reserve league. I mean,
because I remember when some. Sorry, go on.
I've just got to say, we're talking about players like McCarthy and that getting up to match speed.
Yeah.
I think a couple of reserve games would have helped McCarthy be ready for Ibrox.
Oh, massively. Mm-hmm. And I remember a story of, I forget the player who was saying it, but he said he was centre forward for some club, one of the clubs in Scotland, and he was playing in the reserve league, and they were playing Aberdeen, and Alex McLeish was coming back from injury, and he was the centre back for Aberdeen. And he said he never learned so quickly in his entire life after 90 minutes of a game of playing against a seasoned international and seasoned professional like that. So I like, as I said, I don't know. I remember watching it years ago when there was reserve leagues, and it was great to watch. And for whatever reason, they seem to get rid of it. But I think it's so hard. And it's like Paul said a while ago, if you're a 17 or 18-year-old and you get put into the first team, and you have, again, like you were even saying, Mark, one or two bad touches, or miss a tackle, or something goes wrong, all of a sudden you're literally hung, drawn, and quartered, and you're like, right, he's useless, get rid of him quick. He's rubbish, like, and it's either sink or swim. That's the problem. They get a chance, and it's either sink or swim, and it shouldn't be like that.
Realistically, Mark, the process for a young lad at Celtic should be, we say, under 18s thing, and then take a step up, like keep the Colts league, he step up to that, and then take a step up to a reserve league. Do you know what I mean? Like a different stage every year. Like what it's basically what Morrison said, Mark, that they had a stage for him at every level he should be stepping up at each year. At Bayern Munich, that's what they saw to move through. Like, I know it's Bayern Munich. Like, if Bayern Munich come chasing you as a youngster, you're going to go on with. But the thing that pointed out, Mark, is like they had a plan for him. Under 18s, under 20s, reserves, Bayern Munich.
And you're achieving it right. He's got at least he's on their books. Well done to the lad. He's there, but I mean, it'll take some amount of work and luck for him to become like a Bayern Munich first team player. But he'll have a really good career out of football, and he'll be a better player than he'll be leaving Bayern Munich than he would be leaving, like, if he stayed at Celtic for that length of time.
Like, you look at the young lad, Sancho, and the fella Bellerin, who went to Borussia Dortmund because they weren't getting games with Man City, and they just had broke into the first team, Mark, and now they got a big move to Manchester United. Do you know? So, like, it's just like what you said, Mark, is that it's a stepping stone for the likes of it's the exact same like you're going down to Brentford. That's a stepping stone for him to make the next move to, we say, the likes of Liverpool, Tottenham, or Chelsea. If they
get down there and prove that he can do a job at that level, and then he'll get a move to a bigger team. Just like Van Dijk could today. Even Tierney, fair dues, Arsenal's a big team, but Tierney will move on for Arsenal now. That
I can't see him staying there, especially now. Unless
they have a major shake-up, but I don't think they'll be having a major shake-up anytime soon.
I was talking to an Arsenal fan, Mark, that there's major concerns financially behind the scenes at Arsenal that aren't coming out. Their club, I think, in serious trouble, and I don't think they'll finish in the top 10 the way they're going this season, and that's not good enough, really. Then, considering, like, they were always complaining, like the grass isn't, like, there's an old saying, the grass isn't green on the other side. Like, they were screaming for Arsene Wenger to get out, Mark, but he was getting them into the Champions League group stages every year. And they still weren't happy with that. And now look at them. That seems to be the problem with the Premier League, Mark, isn't it? The expectations of fans are too high.
You see it on Twitter even. I mean, you even see because you're leftist to Brentford now. You've got Brentford fans on Twitter now. We took one of your best players, and as if Brentford's this big, massive club.
Yeah, just going what he was saying, Mark. Oh yeah, that he wasn't challenged enough at Celtic. What you make of that? Like, considering he couldn't defend a corner, that we conceded the most goals last season from set pieces. Like, if Ayer's that good, and even when he was playing with Norway, he was conceding goals for Norway. He was a mistake for a few set pieces as well, Terence. Like,
to be honest, Paul, that's just Premier League horseshit.
Yeah.
It comes out of players from down there. Like, I mean, Ayers, is he 6'5"?
Mm-hmm.
He mustn't be far. I can't remember him once scoring a headed goal for Celtic. Not once. No, I could be wrong. I can't remember him scoring a header. No, he was a decent defender. Don't get me wrong. But it doesn't take some of them too long when they get down there to start.
Yeah.
The ego kind of starts to rise and go.
I think I did have maybe a bit of an ego about him, Terence. You kind of get that impression, didn't you?
Yeah, he kind of like one of those fellas that my shit doesn't smell like. Well, it does. But, do you know what I mean? But he's one of the. But he comes across with that impression that he's down there. He's like, yeah, do you know what I mean? I'm the next big thing. I wasn't really challenged up there and all this kind of nonsense. Like, he was a decent player for Celtic, but he wasn't a standout every single week.
No.
Do you know what I mean? He had a lot of deficiencies. So.
He was still for me. He was still a young player.
Oh, he was very young.
He's still. I mean, he's still not the finished article. I still believe that Ayer will be a great defender, a great centre half for somebody. But as I said, he's only even 24 yet.
So if he's even that, I'd say he might only be he might only be 23. I'd say Mark. Because he.
As a centre back, I mean, he is really young, and he's had a good career for considering for his age, the amount of trophies he's won, and the amount of he's obviously playing international football and that. But I mean, I know it says Terence, that's just the kind of sound bites they need to into it for a wee.
It is. It's the Premier. It's somewhat fellas who go to the Premier League in a nutshell. It just sums, not all of them, but it's just an ego thing. It's an ego thing. Oh, listen, Scotland didn't challenge me anymore. Celtic didn't. I wasn't good. I was too good for them. I need to go down. I need to further my. He could have been a lot politer and said, "Yeah, I enjoyed Scotland. I wanted to go to the next level. I wanted to try test myself, maybe at a higher league." And everyone would go, "Yeah, fair enough." But to come out and say, "I wasn't really challenged. I was." You'd kind of go, "Pal, I have a few clips here now I could show you."
Yeah.
And they're bad, like. So.
Playing for Brentford,
I think a little bit.
He ever was for Celtic.
Oh yeah, I think a little bit more humility mightn't have gone too bad either. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, like you said, Mark, we'll see how good a defender he really is down with playing with them.
Before we go, lads, score predictions for tomorrow. Are you expecting a goal fest from Celtic, considering what's going on behind the scenes at the moment? Will that affect the Celtic first team, or will it be business as usual? Mark, I come to you, Sauce.
I'm going to go for 4-0, Paul.
Well, nice one. No. Terence?
Yeah, I'd say business as usual as well. I'd think 4-0 as well.
I think that could be like a kind of Dundee kind of lively performance. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you know what I mean? But anyone will do me right enough, Paul, you know that.
A win's a win, Mark, at the end of the day, and I think Celtic, as Terence said, they need to just put the last game behind them and get back, press the reset button. I went for 3-1.
3-1? She'd for a set piece. A Liam Scales OG.
Jesus Christ. So that's it for tonight. Thanks, Terence, again for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me on, lads.
Thanks for the live chat, lads. Mark will now close the show.
Right, thanks very much, Paul. Thanks again, Terence, for coming on.
Cheers, pal.
Brilliant. Anytime you come on, so you're more than welcome. Just let us know when you're available. Thanks everybody for joining us in live chat as well. Remember, if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, the like button, and if you can, leave a comment. Hail, hail.